What do you do if you get a jellyfish sting? So the 5-second rule is a classic. And what it says is that if you drop something on the ground, if you pick it up before 3 or 5 seconds, that you won't get sick. If they have it within 6 hours of sleeping, their sleep cycle can get interrupted. And sleep is really where most of their growth occurs.
Hey guys, Dr. Nene here. I practice as a cardiothoracic, vascular, and general surgeon, and I'm now a health tech innovator who wants to improve lifespans and lifestyles. So stay healthy, stay curious, and keep watching.
Hey guys, welcome back. Dr. Nene here to break up some myths. So here we go. These are the ones you gave to us. So the 5-second rule is a classic. And what it says is that if you drop something on the ground, if you pick it up before 3 or 5 seconds, that you won't get sick. Now, the interesting part is when I went back to the literature to figure this one out, it was in both directions. In some studies, they couldn't show that you would have bacteria growing off of the surfaces which these things fell on. Alternately, the things which they looked at, like bologna, which bologna alone, if you keep it and grow it for several days, may have some bacteria on it anyway. But in the case of bologna, at 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 300 seconds in the Rutgers study, as well as other things, they had varying results. My comment on this would be very simple. If there is dissension within the ranks, why do you want to take a chance? If it drops on the ground, you don't know what's been on that ground, most likely your feet and your shoes and everything from outside. Worse yet, in a restaurant or on a table, right? Don't eat it, leave it. And certainly for your kids, don't teach them the 5-second rule because they won't know any better. And then the next thing you know, you've got someone with gastro. So my feeling on this is no 5-second rules. This is a great one, right? Everyone taught you to not eat before you work out and or wait 30 minutes before you swim. And so let's start with the first one first. They did some great studies on short-term exercise, meaning 60 minutes or less, long exercise, meaning over 60 minutes. And the interesting part is what they found was if you don't eat before you do 60-minute or less aggressive exercise, your body changes slightly and within 20 minutes burns through the existing glycogen, which is converted to glucose or sugar for your tissues, and then you start burning fat. The interesting part in that study was that they couldn't show long-term that you would burn more fat overall. And that's perhaps because you don't live in a vacuum, you eat as much as you exercise. And so I've always said that 80% of your weight loss and your journey is from your diet, and 20% comes from exercise. Now, this gets very interesting because if it's over 60 minutes, you end up going to anaerobic respiration, and the longer distance, higher burn athletes like long distance runners and whatnot actually benefit from a meal early on, within 30 to 60 minutes from working out. And so the idea of that is carbs can actually help you sustain your energy for a longer period of time. And then finally, the question is, well, how does it work for your overall exercise regimen and weight loss? We've talked a little bit about that. In a short burn, 60-minute or less, it actually switches you to a fat-burning monster, but it's never been shown to aid long-term in that. I think that's because you don't live in a vacuum. Over 60 minutes, it actually helps your performance potentially, but the jury's a little bit out. So I would say keep it in mind. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is with swimming, depending on what you eat, if it's high fat content or things which keep your stomach from emptying, then you don't want to swim at least 30 minutes, probably 60 minutes, like ice cream and things like that. Just sit there because there's a risk that if you swim hard, you could regurgitate and end up fouling the pool, let alone your lungs or other things. Now, if it's something small and light or liquids, 30 minutes is plenty for swimming. I don't think that should be an issue unless you're swimming lap after lap after lap. But those are the things that I would do in terms of the myth. Here's a great one. The original thoughts on this were very perplexing when I saw this myth. And coffee is a stimulant, as you know, And the thought is that could it work at different time points? And I think the basis of this myth is that in teenagers and younger, if they have it within 6 hours of sleeping, their sleep cycle can get interrupted. And sleep is really where most of their growth occurs. The answer is that there's no evidence of that, but there's a couple of caveats. The first is never go above the 400 milligrams of caffeine in a day for adults. And the idea behind that is that you can start to have side effects from the caffeine, like irregular heartbeats, jitteriness, and aggressiveness. And what is 400 milligrams? If you have brewed coffee, it's generally 4 cups of coffee. And then we've, in our previous episodes, given you a soup, which I'll put here, on how much caffeine there is in each of these different beverages. And then with kids, I would limit the amount of coffee they drink. They don't need to. They can stay on milk or fruit juices, not canned fruit juices because they have a lot of sugar. And then certainly if you're gonna feed them caffeinated beverages, try to hesitate doing it for both adults and children within 6 hours of going to sleep because it may interrupt your sleep cycle. But there's no evidence to suggest that it stunts your growth. And so that myth is out. You guys have heard about all this, and so don't get your shorts down and go to Australia and go pee on your buddy, for various reasons. I mean, some people might like that, but that's not what we do. The interesting part is it's never been shown to actually cure jellyfish stings. In fact, what they found is that it may cause the stingers, which are implanted, to inject their toxin and their venom and actually make it worse. So how does that work? The jellyfish are sometimes endemic to different parts of the world, depending on what's going on. And if you swim in an infested area, you will have little kind of irritations and sometimes bigger ones. Jellyfish range in size to like the man of war, which can cause death, to really small ones, which you can barely see and you just feel them like little pricklies on your legs. What do you do if you get a jellyfish sting? There's a few things which have been shown to be beneficial. One of them is having some vinegar around, because for whatever reason acetic acid is capable of inactivating the stingers. The second thing is, should you pull the stingers out? And the idea is if you can identify it and pull it without squeezing it, you might be able to keep the toxin out. And the last thing which may help is as hot as you can tolerate it water without scalding or burning yourself, because that seems to inactivate jellyfish stingers. In most cases, the toxin is not, the venom is not very harmful, and you'll end up with a little bit of pain for a small period of time and then it'll go away, and at most you'll have a little bit of rash from sensitivity to the actual venom. But in most cases it's self-limited, and the main thing is to take care of it and stay out of the water. I think the prevention is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Do your homework and ask lifeguards or other people, is the water safe to go into? I mean, this is like a Jaws thing. And the bottom line is jellyfish are annoying. And if you ever get stung, which I have been, it is a little bit of a nuisance, but it's not a long-term problem. And keep sending me the MythBuster questions which you want us to bust or to accept, and we'll go through them. As always, like, subscribe, and share so that everyone will follow. And make sure you hit the bell icon so that we will have you there before.